Alright, welcome back to Game 10 of Lucid's 2022 tournament. This was turn 32. I should also mention at this point that turns 33 and 34 are missing. So my apologies. This is probably due to the fact that I was in too many simultaneous games of Dominions at this point. So let's jump into it here. We see a horror attack against Vettiheim. This is got to be from Micklin, I would believe. Yeah, a few Belly Maw horrors here. And some province defense and some raiders. Not actually sure how this is going to work out. Belly Maws are kind of nasty, but there's not that many of them. And yeah, these Vetti, they're getting their protection buffs. Wow, they are getting annihilated by those Belly Maw horrors. All right, there you go. Belly Maws, don't mess with them. So that is going to make raiding a little tougher for Vettiheim, though Vettiheim can dodge this because most of their units are stealthy, right? So they can raid a place and then they can hide, and then the Belly Maw horrors will just hit the province defense. So it will slow down Vettiheim's raiding, but Vettiheim's actually better able to handle these sort of horror attacks than a lot of other nations. We witness a battle where Utgard attacks some independents. I think they have a lot of Vinemen they're clearing out. Oh no, these are the Toads, which, yeah, I mean, can be kind of nasty. There's a lot of poison damage here, but if I recall, they have regeneration, right? Yeah, so regeneration, they should be able to chop up these Toads no problem. They're not going to love the poison damage, but it's also not going to kill them. I don't think the frogs, well, frogs are doing better. I didn't realize they were tramplers, it looks like. So I don't know if the frogs got any kills there. Yeah, the frogs do manage to get one kill, which is pretty impressive considering what they were up against. But overall, relatively clean from Utgard there, clearing out some of their independent attacks. Then we have Gath attacking out, I think this is, yeah, on their capital. This is one of their heroes. Yeah, I think we've seen this guy before. He is immortal. No gear. I think, yeah, he's just casting some skeletons. Like, I guess, kind of attempting to burn gems, but I don't think this is going to burn gems. So maybe just wants to see what's there. Maybe just saying hello, but it's definitely not going to work out. This is a lot of stuff from Marignan. Definitely an impressive army, like good mage support. We've got some devils. Like, yeah, I like it. So one devil does go down, a couple flagellants, you know, but I don't know, sort of a waste of time. I guess it never hurts to exercise the enemy army, and that fellow is immortal, so no loss for Gath. We have Vettiheim attacking. Yeah, this is some sort of raid. Very small raid, actually. So let's see. But yeah, Micklin only has one province defense here. So I think this is going to work out for Vettiheim. They take another province from Micklin. Of course, they did lose that other raiding group to those horrors. So a bit of a mixed bag, at least from what we can see. And then we have two attacks this turn, right? We have two pings, really. So we wanted to see, yeah, this is what we would have been up against. A lot of mage support here, a communion with, it looks like a few gems. So probably a little bit of swarm. Not really sure what they're planning on doing with the communion after that. Probably skeletons. Some body ethereal spam, you know, a good amount of province defense. Like, yeah, this would have been pretty nasty. So definitely glad we withdrew, and definitely worth getting a look. Unfortunately, of course, we won't actually see, yeah, our guy retreats immediately, so we don't get to see the rest of the script. I believe that was in the south, and then I think this is in the north. Yeah, so this is the other thing that we would have been up against. And again, like another defense setup here. Another communion, a lot of sacreds, a lot more sacreds than I would have hoped. Yeah, just like nobody's really done a great job of killing these guys and keeping their numbers down. A lot of undead here in this formation, and with the giant undead, that's pretty nasty. So yeah, this we're not at all ready to face, right? Because our northern force is pretty weak, so I don't really foresee us continuing the offensive in the north, at least in the short term. In the south, though, I think the balance of forces are more in our favor. And then we have Ulm finishing off Calum here. This is probably an assault. Yeah, a pretty large Ulmish army. We've seen it in action. There's actually quite a bit of defense here for Calum's last fort. He's got some mages. He's summoning some corpse constructs, some banes. Turn on team-colored squares here. A few smaller, yeah, lesser air elementals. But I think there's probably just way too much Ulmish stuff here. They do manage to hold the gap. Ulm actually getting some banishment out. And a lot of undead here for Calum. One mammoth. Somebody's got a cold ore up there. Probably, yeah, some of the banes. Some of these ethereal knights are slipping through, because, of course, ethereal units can go through the walls. It looks like there's an attack rear, and it looks like a few of them actually are going to get into the rear here. But yeah, mages are dangerous, so it doesn't look like it's going great for them. In fact, do these guys retreat? No, they're still fighting. So yeah, it's taking a second to get through the gap, but yeah, now that Ulm is through, I think that's all she wrote for Calum. Still a nice attempt. Calum didn't really have a whole lot left. They do manage to inflict some casualties. Yeah, Ulm loses 6 sacreds, so, that's not great, but considering they're up against 87 of the fellows in a 220-person army, they did okay. And I believe that is all she wrote for Calum. Yeah, Calum has been permanently defeated, and of course that means Ulm is now free to choose a next target, which theoretically could be us. Pretty unlikely, but it is something, we need to keep in the back of our mind. With some unexpected events, a spirit has appeared, probably to attack us. Dominion change, fantastic. Hey, we find some province resources. Of course, in Phlegra, that always takes the form of slave labor, but at least we're not being attacked by barbarians. We are being attacked by, this is the spirit, so it's just an earth gnome. This is one of the places that we have very little province defense, but should still be enough to take on one earth gnome. Famous last words. No, that does work out for us. We also managed to patrol out Marigny's scout. Always happy to be rid of those. Not too worried about Marigny since we don't share a border, but, always worth considering who has scouts in your territory. Also of note, we finished research in construction, level 5, headed on to level 6, and I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we did about it. Definitely in a bit of a holding pattern this turn. In some ways, I think just want to see what Utgard is going to do. I think they are in a position to attack both in the north and the south, but I think it's really more in the north that we're more concerned. This is the larger force, absolutely, and we have the smaller force there, so we're moving a lot of reinforcements up. I think also, Atlantis is theoretically kind of fighting with Utgard, but again, there may have been a ceasefire. It's hard to say. Atlantis is still tied up trying to finish off Raga. This fortification is uncracked. That is one thing about the late age. There's a lot of citadels running around. In this game in particular, there's actually quite a few giant citadels running around. Like Gath is not cracked. Giant citadels have 1,000 wall integrity, which has got to be close to the max in the game. I'm not sure if it is. Probably there's some magic forts out there that have a bit more, but 1,000 wall integrity is a lot to grind through, especially if there's a good amount of defenders. So a lot of these sieges are definitely dragging, and in the case of Atlantis and Raga, I think it's, kind of cutting into our support. We were hoping that Atlantis would get a little more involved a little earlier. And then, of course, we still haven't really seen fighting between Vedheim and Utgard, so potentially a ceasefire there. Vedheim does seem to be making decent progress against Micklin, but they have a long way to go. So for the moment, from a practical standpoint, it seems like it's mostly just a 1v1 here with us and Utgard, which is not ideal. That said, I do think we can defend what we have, and potentially in the south here, launch an offensive. We are gathering more mages. We do have a good amount of shackled mages now. We're building up some of these throne mages, which are going to be fairly important since they're going to be the easiest way for us to make a bunch of our bugs lucky. Our bug output down here, it looks a little lackluster. Hopefully, I think we're sending the witches, up north because we're a little more worried about up north, but we definitely do need to get some more bug production down in this army. We are forging some more gear somewhere for our Cyclops thugs. Yeah, here's a fire plate. So, we're going to finish out some of the gear. We have a little bit of gear, really just kind of one set that a lot of this we were using for our Pretender. We're also building up some rings of regeneration. I think those we're going to hang on to, hopefully, for the Tyrants. I don't think this is really worth being given to our Cyclops Smiths, though, they certainly wouldn't be bad on them. They do have a decent hit point pool. So once we have them ready and we've gathered, some more troops, I think we probably will strike out again in the south here. But we really would kind of like Utgard to commit these forces in the north so that, they can't be shuttled back. It is a pretty long walk, even from where they currently are. But I have to say, they are pretty fast. Yeah, I guess they're not that fast. Map move 16. So we should be fairly safe from a transfer from the south. But they definitely have popped up before in places that I wasn't expecting them to be able to reach. We can at least see that there's not too many in the capital, so I think, more or less what we've seen is what we're up against. I don't think there's, any stacks of the sacreds out there that we don't know about. More or less full troop recruitment, still somewhat of a spread. Yeah, we're getting some Cyclopses in the north, more Cyclopses it looks like. So starting to lean into these Cyclops soldiers. I do think they'll do, decently well, right? They're not going to care about the body ethereal thanks to the magic weapon. They have high protection and a lot of hit points, so they're going to last longer against those sacreds. And they deal a lot of damage, and, they have decent skills, like good enough skills, I think, to hit Utgard's sacreds. So, and it's hopefully still early enough in the game that this abysmal magic resistance isn't going to backfire. Like, I don't know, we'll see. I think we're probably still getting Mouflon, in the capital, so we're still doing our other recruitment. Yeah, still plenty of crossbows coming out. Still quite a few mages. Like I said, building up these throne mages down here to get us some higher level astral and air. Though up in the north with our earth astral throne mages, we're actually getting a shackled mage here. I do think our shackled mage numbers, in the north are pretty concerning, right? We have 2 communion slaves, so that's not much of a communion. I do think we are bringing up more shackled mages, hopefully. Yeah, here's a bunch moving up. In the south, it's definitely looking a lot healthier, at least in terms of being able to cast spells. Obviously, the shackled mages themselves not looking particularly healthy. But such is life in Phlegra. I don't think too much else has changed. Obviously Ulm here can go wherever they want. They do border some untaken thrones, and their main army is right next to this throne here, which isn't too difficult other than this Great Mother, so it would not surprise me to see them move against this throne. And again, that kind of sets them up to attack us from the rear. I don't think that's going to happen. But definitely something of a concern. We do at least have some mages in this fort here, and not a ton of mages at home, and really almost nothing in the way of troops. So really just relying on the fact that this would be a very awkward territory addition for Ulm, but definitely a concern because it's not going to be a fast-moving army. So there's a lot of reasons for them to choose a fight that's relatively close to where this army currently is. And I think that more or less covers the diplomacy. Like I said, a lot of ongoing sieges that are kind of grinding on. I don't think there's been, any major shifts. Research-wise, we did eke out Evocation 1, and we're getting Evocation 2. I honestly cannot explain this in retrospect. I guess we're looking at Lightning Bolt, but we don't actually have that many air mages. Like those throne mages will be able to take advantage of that. We do want Evocation Research, but I don't really know why Evocation 2 is really critical in this moment, but who can explain Pastor Janus? Otherwise, same research that we've talked about before, and I think that more or less covers Turn 32.